what you have to do when you want people to work together is try to do work which will bring them together. And so you start off with particular games and exercises. In the Boal structure, the games and exercises are not warm-ups as such. They have a kind of meaning of their own.
The first exercise we did was what's called Occupy the Space, which involved people milling around the room, trying to fill in all the spaces, and then in turn just looking at each other, and then looking away from each other, and then smiling, and then one half were looking away while the others were looking, and then vice versa, and then we did a sort of nice greeting and people saying hello to each other. And that was quite a good way, I think, of getting people sort of into their bodies and also feeling what it was like not to communicate, and then to be able to be warmer towards people. And I think some of the comments were interesting, that they found it quite stressful to be negative, to look down, not to engage.
We had an exercise called 1, 2, 3, where you put them into pairs, and then they have to say 1, and then the other says 2, and then they say 3, and then slowly they swap those numbers for sounds and actions, and it's to get them out of their rectangular space. Quite often people stand very sort of solidly, and it was to get them to be more expressive.
And that was quite interesting to watch, because people find it quite difficult to start off with, and then gradually got warmed up and we're doing more outrageous sounds and gestures.
We played a game where you had an object in the middle of the circle, so we had a cup and then we had a chair, and you have to pretend that that isn't the item that it is. So a cup can be a hat and stuff, so we did those.
That was really useful, because there was a whole range of activities, but instantly, in fact, you could already see how useful they would be, because we started out with a little bit of sitting down and introduction to the day. And actually, the minute we started moving, you could feel the shift in the dynamic in the room, and that things became more active and everybody became more alive and kind of engaged with each other.
The scenarios were asking people to think of particular challenging situations, either from youth work or research situations, where there was a dilemma or a conflict or an issue. Several people suggested possible scenarios, which we then made into a little tableau, and then we chose one to work on. So the group I was working in was looking at research, community-university partnership research, and we then rehearsed a little scene.
It was a meeting of community partners and of academic researchers, and that in the morning there'd been lots and lots of academic talk, and they were starting to get really frustrated. It wasn't what they needed, and they didn't understand a lot of it, and it was quite problematic. And then they left, and it was trying to bring them back and how we'd sort that out.
There was an interesting point where Francis said that the researcher who'd been doing the presentation should actually go out with the head researcher and talk to the two community participants. And then one person came in and changed places with one of the community partners, and then came back in and talked to the researcher. And that changed the dynamics, and it was done in perhaps a slightly more apologetic way, that they were trying to preempt some of the issues that the community partners were raising. So I think it just shows you how you can do something in a slightly different way, or just get a different combination of people, or just a movement into a different space can then shift things forward.
In our group, we got an example where we had an artist coming in to work on a parade for us. So the young people did some designs of what they would like to wear in the parade. And then the artist came along and he'd already had his own ideas and had designed all this stuff without actually consulting the young people. So when he came into the group, he looked at all the designs that we'd had and was like, oh, they're really nice, but I think these would be better. They never got the opportunity to come to some kind of compromise with him because he just would not listen. He wouldn't listen to the young people or the youth worker.
When you ask them to make the scenes, it's a transformative moment where you take something from everyday life, put it into a creative context where it becomes theatre, where it then achieves a kind of more than single significance. It becomes a sort of metaphor or something that represents not just the experience of the people doing it, but other people's experience too, even though they may not have experienced being asked to wear dreadful pink clothes on a procession by an authoritative artist. Everybody has had experiences like that. And so at that point you get a kind of cross-fertilisation of everybody's position, and all sorts of thoughts and ideas come which you didn't know maybe that you knew. You then begin to share ideas and share knowledges which you had not shared before, and you do it through action. And so you get an exchange between the sort of intuitive and the cognitive, which is really fascinating.